Hi, this is Robert Rickover. I'm an Alexander Technique teacher in Lincoln, Nebraska. I teach in Toronto. My guest today is Eileen Troberman, who is an Alexander Technique teacher in the San Diego area. And we've been doing a series of these videos where Eileen is actually teaching me um, various things that are relevant to someone who has had spinal surgery, which I have had. C3 through T2 is fused, and obviously there's some movement limitations in my head neck area. And we've done a series of interviews showing how to make the best of that situation. And I found them very helpful, especially the one we did about bending, by the way, extremely helpful. And today we're going to work a little on arms. For me, the thing that triggered the visit to the ER and triggered the surgery was weakness in this arm, limited range of movement and weakness. So, want me to demonstrate, Eileen, what I can do and can't do with this arm?
Sure, thank you, Robert. That would be great.
That'd be good. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I can raise both arms up pretty much the same now, which I could not do at all for quite a while. This arm is still a little weaker, but I can lift heavy objects with it. I can do this kind of thing very easily. I can do out to the side a little less easily, or there comes a point where that's hard to the other side. I can get higher. I can get this higher, but it's kind of a strain. And what's the hardest part would be getting my hand, say the back of my hand, around on my lower back. Like that's I can kind of do it, but a limitation is coming in somewhere. And part of the limitation obviously may have to do with with the nerve going to the rotator cuff has probably been damaged a bit and is still recovering. I'm sure part of it has to do with the fact that when they did the operation, they took a lot of stuff off this upper back and put it back on. And it's not, takes a little while for that to get itself together. But maybe, Eileen, you could give me some advice on how to make the best of that situation.
Yes, I will see what happens. Let's
Let's
experiment.
see what happens.
Yeah,
We're in experimental mode right now.
yes. So what I'd like you to do is to stand up.
Mm-hmm.
So come stand up. You might want to tilt the camera a little bit as you
Mm-hmm.
stand up.
Yeah. How
So,
much of me do you need to see?
uh, maybe an inch. No, I'm kidding. So, so, I'd like to see a good amount. You can tilt the camera down actually, because
Yeah,
you're going to be
down.
stepping back. Yeah, and then you go ahead and
And
stand back.
I'll
That's good.
go over to the far.
Oh,
Like,
actually, you can tip it a little more up, just so we
yeah,
get
that's what I was
a little
gonna
more,
say.
there we go.
So how's this?
That's great. Good.
Okay,
Yeah. So what I want you to do is do some of those movements again that you were showing me, but standing, so we get to see
sure.
your whole body.
So arm moving up compared to this guy. You can see this guy can get up a little higher. This movement out to the side, there's where I feel a little limitation. Getting it higher I can do, but it's nothing like this arm. If I want to put the back of my
Right.
hand on my lower back, actually, I can do it now. For quite a while, I could only do like down here. So there's a steady improvement. But there's still some limitations here, and that's
Okay.
what I would
So
like
it's
some help with.
improving. It is improving. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, so it's getting better and what you're doing is working. I'll go.
very slowly. And
Yeah.
can I come back to the seat, or do you want me to stay here?
No, actually, what I'd like you to do is a little experiment in walking.
Okay.
So what I'd like you to do is find somewhere in your body right now that feels a little stiff or uncomfortable, more so
Okay.
than other areas, someplace.
Got
Let
it.
me know when you've got a place.
I got a place.
Okay, I want you to really notice that stiffness. Don't try and change it. I know as an
Mm-hmm.
Alexander teacher, an Alexander skilled person, you can, but don't try and change the stiffness. Just
Mm-hmm.
feel that stiffness. Where is it, by the way?
In kind of the
In there.
back of this arm right now.
Okay, so you're
Yeah,
feeling that discomfort.
a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
not
It doesn't
much,
need
but
to
a
be a
little.
big discomfort, just a little bit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So don't try and change it or correct it, Robert. Just
Mm-hmm.
notice that discomfort and walk a little bit to the camera, back, just walk a little
Okay.
bit around, noticing that discomfort. Just keep feeling that discomfort. Keep your attention on the discomfort. Good.
Oddly enough, I don't know whether this is the right answer, but the discomfort's less now.
As you were moving. Good.
Yeah,
Good. Okay.
but I suppose that makes sense. Yeah.
So now what I'd like you to do is find some other area of your body that actually feels really pretty easy. Maybe it's the other side,
Yep, I got it.
someplace that has so much nice sense of ease and lengthening and freedom. Beautiful. I can see that anyway. Yeah, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Mm-hmm.
notice, keep noticing that ease. Don't compare it to the other, but just notice
Mm-hmm.
the ease in that area, that sense of ease you found there, and
Mm-hmm.
walk a little bit.
Okay.
Just noticing that sense of ease as you walk. Yeah, that area that just feels easy. Good.
Mm-hmm.
How was
Mm-hmm.
that walk, Robert?
It's hard for me to tell because it was a little while from the other one. It seemed fine. Could you see a difference?
I could. You can come and
Yeah.
sit down now. Let's talk
Yeah.
about that.
I would, it was a little hard to make a comparison because I was thinking, too much time had elapsed
That's all
for
right.
me to
That's
actually,
you don't need that.
but I can watch it on
Yeah,
TV uh, and
I
see.
think
Yeah.
you'll see something
So,
interesting in it.
yeah. So this idea of noticing where ease is, I know this comes from Mio Morales' work.
Exactly, from
Yeah,
Primal Alexander by Mio
Primal
Morales.
Alexander. And it's not something I've done a lot with. I've done more, the version that you're using is more what I've done. I'm free to notice ease in my body and take that into movement, or just repeating that process a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you'll notice when you play it back
Mm-hmm.
is that you know how where our attention goes, our head starts to go, our head and spine kind of go towards where our attention goes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if
Yeah.
we're the computer, we're like, like we
Oh,
talked
I'm
about
paying
before.
close attention to your
Yeah,
hairstyle right now. Yeah.
yeah. I didn't know you were interested in hairstyles.
Oh,
Gee.
my main
Um,
thing now. Haven't had a haircut in like
I see
four
by what
months.
you've done there. So,
Yeah.
so what happened when you were noticing and when you were showing me where your arm hurt before, when you were showing, well, I can
Mm-hmm.
do this, I
Mm-hmm.
can do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think when you play it back, what you'll notice is your head and spine would go over to that side as you were
Mm-hmm.
doing that. So when you walked also, it was like that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes. And when you notice ease, it just went back to this nice, lovely, easy freedom and natural length and buoyancy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So way back in the beginning, when we first started doing these little sessions, I think we
Mm-hmm.
talked about it. We talked about some movement of your arm. I don't think this was on the recording, but
Mm-hmm.
you showed me your arm movement and I asked you where it felt easy and you
Mm-hmm.
ended up doing your arm movement much more freely and with more range.
Right.
So it's a very it's a very interesting thing to do. It's not Pollyanna positive thinking, but it actually changes our coordination.
Mm-hmm.
And the way one of the Mio is the expert of teaching his primal Alexander, but I've been working with him for a while,
Hmm.
learning this, and I find it very helpful. And I have all my students do a little practice, a daily practice he calls the cycle. You've probably seen that, have you?
Sure. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
where you're really just being curious and asking yourself a bunch of times, where seems a little easy? Where else?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
just being curious, not trying to keep ease or doing anything,
Hmm.
just asking yourself that.
Hmm.
And he has people do that 4 times each finger. So he calls it the cycle because you're
Hmm.
cycling through each finger 4 times. So you
Hmm.
have 40 times of asking and you keep getting a little easier. That I think that would be, I'm not going to do that with you now and take the
Right.
time, but it would
Yeah.
be a great practice to do that because then it becomes so easy. Like right now, that's great to switch in your thinking to where do I notice ease or where seems a little
Hmm.
easy. And it adds this buoyancy and freedom that's naturally there. Really, it just inhibits the habit, but it also
So the
triggers
the
that.
version that I've played with, I think Mio's language is "Where do you notice ease?" Right?
He's
Something
he's
along the.
he's refined it over time, and right
Okay.
now it's where else do I seem a little bit easy?
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like the idea of making it a kind of a freedom direction. I'm free to notice these. I find that
that's great. But then
resonates
this is a
with me.
little different because then you're if you want to use your free to notice ease, use your free to be curious about ease. Because it's
Okay. Yeah.
really the curiosity, and even though when we did it, I had for the demonstration, had you find someplace. It's
Right.
really just the mental curiosity. Where do I seem a little easy? Just the curiosity. Yes, there you go. There's even a little change when you do that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so one of the ways to really help your arm and shoulder
Hmm.
is to, anytime you feel a little twinge or something, to just
Hmm.
use that as a way to come back to, if you like the way of saying, you're free to be curious about where you might feel easy. Just curious. You don't need to find the ease. You don't need to take that other step. Just being free to be curious about it.
Okay.
You
So
know,
it's an
even more free.
example of what there's a book called Indirect Procedures by I can't think of his name now, but you know who I'm talking about,
Yes.
musician guy. Um, so this is kind of like an indirect procedure. Instead of focusing on the thing that is the problem, quote unquote, you are curious about, or you are free to notice where
Free to
ease
be
is,
curious
that
about. Yeah.
curious about ease that may be, almost certainly will be, quite distant or not the same as where the problem seems to be, right?
Right. Or even you don't even need to bother with wherever it is. You're just going to be curious. You're just free to be curious about it. That's great, Robert. That's super.
So you're saying be curious without any choosing a spot or anything like
Yes.
that.
Or
Yeah.
without even,
Okay.
you don't even need to notice it. You're just free to be curious about it. Yes. And every time you do that, boy, there's this beautiful ease and that natural coordination is in there just beautifully, Robert. That's really nice. Yeah. So playing around with that and practicing that and maybe asking it, just saying, well, with 4 times a finger, I'm free to be curious about ease. That's all you need to do, just repeating it. But every time you do, you get a little easier and you're starting from a different place. And then you're starting from a different level of ease every time you ask it. So it really does do a little transformative thing because it builds. You don't, even if you went back to your habit right after, you wouldn't go back as far because you would be starting your neutral where you're starting from is different, is
Mm-hmm.
improved. So doing that can really help with this thing where our head goes to where our attention goes. Our head and spine pulls to where our attention goes. Because otherwise we tend to, oh, my arm. And then what happens is it really shortens the end.
Right.
I can't really, you know, and we don't realize this because we're thinking, ooh, and this is natural for us to be drawn to the pain.
Hmm.
That's just designed in us, you know. So we know
Hmm.
something's wrong, something's going on, we need to change something.
Right.
But often the pain, as you know, because you know from the nerves in your surgery, sometimes the pain is from where it is, sometimes the pain is from something else affecting that.
Hmm.
So that being curious about being free, yes, that's so good, Robert. Being free to notice ease is wonderful. And doing that with a movement, it's tricky because you're going to want to just for a moment check on the movement and feel it and go to there. But you're still going to feel what you feel. You're feeling it here anyway. So if you're free to be curious
Hmm.
and you think, yeah, I'm free to be curious. I'm free to be curious. I'm going to be free to be curious about this. I'm going to be free to be curious about where my arm goes. And it doesn't mean you need to stretch it past where it's sore. There's lots of information about, they call it sometimes frozen shoulder, but it's like a little, you can get an inflammation
Hmm.
in the joint
Sure.
capsule. You can get
Right.
little tendon inflammations, tendinitis.
Hmm.
All of
Hmm.
those things will kind of get it to be like it's harder to move in those directions. And it does take a while. So I thought you were doing pretty good that you've made those improvements so far.
Hmm.
Um, but I think working on it, where instead of
Yep.
this and trying to move it, going, well, I'm okay, I'm free to be curious. I'm free to be
Great. Well,
curious. Let's try that.
I'm doing that. I'm free to be
Oh,
curious.
no, I know you are, but
Oh,
why you move your arm? I know you are. I see it.
oh,
Yeah.
I'm free to be
Now,
curious where there's,
yes. Now keep being free to be curious because different moments there, your attention went out here.
uh,
Yes, and keep being free to be curious. Now be curious. Let's be curious. Yes, let's be curious. Oh, I'm
uh-huh.
curious about ease. Yes, yes. Now that's great. And if you compare it to the other one, you'll see it's not as pulled in, first of all.
Hmm.
You know, so that's great. It's very it's not it's easy to do, but we all like to know, no, let me just check this out first. Oh, is it here? Oh, oh,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and we pull that way. Yeah.
Well, this,
No,
I think this would be a good place to end this session, don't you
yeah.
think?
Yeah, and it boy,
I
you
think
I
it's,
just wanted you to say go back over and notice those times when you said when you thought I'm curious, I'm free to be curious. Yeah. That yes, there is this ease emanating from you when you do that. You'll
oh,
see.
I want that. I want to be emanating ease.
You can be your
All
em.
right. That's my whole new thing now. All right. Well, thank you. So we'll end the conversation here.
You're welcome.